Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Here we go. You dial so correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. We're delighted you're here. John is engineering the broadcast at GCN in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. Today, part 2, three-man militia with Mike Ma. Mike Ma's website, NoStressMike.com. NoStressMike.com. And if you'd like to find him on the internet, look up Mike Ma, M-A-H. Mike, M-A-H. 2 words. Welcome, Mike.
Good morning, Vincent.
Hey, Mike, it's great to hear your voice.
Well, it's good to be out. It's nice, beautiful weather, cooled down. But it's reminded me I'm going to have to start thinking about leaving.
Yeah. When are you leaving?
November 13th. I thought I'd wait for election before I go.
The midterms. And can you say where you're going to be traveling?
Thailand. One-way ticket, so I don't know when I'm coming back or where I'm going to go besides there.
Let me see if I've got this right, Mike. You don't have a destination in mind? You're just going to show up in Thailand?
Yes. That's correct.
Okay. There aren't many people who would do that. You know that, right?
I'm starting to wonder that. It seems like every place I go, people have an idea of where they're going. Just kind of stumble around and see what happens.
And, of course, you'll stay in touch via the Internet. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. I keep making videos, but, I can't edit them or anything, but if I got Internet, well, then I stay connected.
Mike, we talked about, last Friday, we talked about part 1 of the three-man militia. And I'd like to say that I know it works. I know it works from firsthand experience. Let me give you an example. And I mentioned this several different ways on USA Prepares over the last few weeks. So one of our instructors had some damage to his German-made car, and to the front end of it, and he got an estimate of $5,700 to fix it from one of his, buddies in Springfield Village, who owns a repair shop for body work. And so he asked me, and you know this man, he drills and fills for a living, and bills, so he's a dentist. And you know him well, don't you?
Yes,
So a guy slammed on the brakes in front of him with his pickup truck and was blinded by the sun. And our instructor friend kind of tapped him in the rear, did $5,700 worth of damage to his BMW, his old BMW, 2000 model. $5,700 repair bill. And I looked at it and I said, hey, you know what? We can do this. We can do this ourselves. I think it'll cost about $1,500. So I've been teaching a three-man militia class. And the class was him, me, and our son. And so he bought a used, banged-up BMW, same make and model, same year, and we took the parts off it and put it in the one that was banged up. So we have it all together, and it cost $1,000 for the salvage vehicle, if you will, and it's going to cost $250 for the hood to be painted to match the same color. So all in all, we're going to have $1,250 in it. And my original estimate, when I first saw it, I said we can do this ourselves for $1,500. I know we can. So we're going to come in a little bit under our estimate. And there's an example of a 3-man militia. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. And like I say, it's not so much what it is that you're doing. It's the relationship. And I'm really happy that you've been working with him. And now, I don't really believe he's real mechanically inclined, but it won't make any difference because when he's there working, he knows, he understands the effort that's put into it. That's what strengthens the militia itself. And then you can work together on other projects.
Well, here's what happened.
What's that?
So he had it. He had this his BMW at the auto repair place, to get an estimate. And while it was there, a window was broken. So someone decided to break into it. Springfield's a pretty corrupt place. And so someone decided to break into his car and take whatever they thought they wanted. Well, they broke the back window. Not the rear window, but the rear door window. So now not only did he have the damage to the front, he had the damage to the window. Well, since we had this other car, he said, well, let's take the window out. So I said, okay. What we'll do is we'll remove the door panel. We'll take out the window regulator. We'll take out the glass, and we'll put it all back together. So I got him started, and what I'm famous for is, in my teaching method, getting people started and then walking away. So I'll be right back. Mm-hmm. I let him figure it out. He had the door panel off, and he needed some help with the window regulator, putting the glass in. So he took the glass out of one car, put it in the other one, and it all worked. He was beaming from ear to ear. Well, his wife was on the road in her American, we'll call it an SUV, and 2000 model, and the rear window broke. It just shattered. Just broke. We don't know why. Well, she called him and said, well, I put some plastic over it, and, I'm on my way home. And he said, hey, no problem. I know how to fix that.
Confidence, great.
Well,
it took away the fear.
Absolutely. And it's better than that, because he came over here to the farm, and he was beaming from ear to ear, and he goes, come here, I want to show you this. You got to look. So he opened up his trunk, and he went to Harbor Freight, and he bought the tool set in order to, there's a set of tools to remove door panels. So he bought the entire set. It's like probably $9. So he got that, and then he got some pry tools to, other tools to remove, door panels. So now he's in the door panel removal and window repair business. Absolutely
Great.
True.
It makes a difference when you're working with other people, even when you're taking on projects you don't know anything about. When you have a good relationship, they're not going to ridicule you. So if you make a mistake, you just all get a good laugh out of it, and then you put your minds all together and see if you can get this figured out. And if you can't, you figure out where to take it to get it taken care of. But it's the relationship. And like I say, it's right there with him. It's built up his confidence. And if he's been doing this, when he was 20 years old and then worked his way up, I mean, your confidence keeps gaining more and more, and you're not scared of taking on chores that are way beyond what you can normally do when you know you have some people backing you up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so one other little piece of this is, in order to fix his original BMW, we had to take the radiator out, we had to take the air conditioning condenser out, which meant we had to evacuate all the refrigerant. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what? I've got this empty, really large refrigeration bottle. Let's use the compressor of the BMW and push the Freon into this refrigeration bottle. And I'd never done that before, and we did it. So we took the Freon out of his car and put it in a bottle for later use. Then we put his replaced the radiator, replaced the air conditioning condenser. And then I showed him how to charge an air conditioning unit, which he had never done before either. So now he's in the air conditioning business, the window business, the radiator removal and repair business, and now he's in the bodywork business. And he looked at his new hood, which is silver. Yeah, it's from a silver BMW. His was black, and he said, "Can we paint the hood?" And I said, "Well, we're probably $15 away from painting a hood. A couple cans of spray paint and 2 black and 1 clear coat. I think we can do it. Do you want to do it?" And so we may actually do the hood ourselves as well. So you're right, Mike. And the point of telling this story is that's just one small area. And my wife thinks it's the coolest thing that these 2 middle-aged guys are out there working on the car, and it's working. It absolutely works. We took it for a test drive. He couldn't believe how well it worked. So I just want to share with you, class, yeah, if you've got one guy that knows a little bit more than the other 2, yeah, you can do it. You absolutely can do it. Now, have I ever done this on a BMW? No, I haven't. I have not charged into or removed any of these parts, like the hood, like the grill, the bumpers on a BMW. I've never done it before. And I never recharged an air conditioning unit before on a BMW. Nor have I ever replaced so many parts and done, we'll call it body work, if you will. I haven't done it. But it didn't stop us. It took us, 3 weekends, 1 day per weekend to do that. And now the confidence level is really good, and the bonding is superb.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I use the same tactics in business, whether it's my business, I'm trying to get the employees all together, we break it up where we're working together to get things done, or, like I say, if I'm going to start a business, even though they're not going to be partners, I still get people that I can work with. But at the same time, if they're starting a business that I'm not going to be involved, I want to learn about it. So let me help you get this thing going. And I did it, I lived in Guatemala for 14 years, and people couldn't believe all the stuff that I got accomplished down there. And I don't speak Spanish, so I was still able to get things done. That's because I work with other people. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Mike Ma, no stress, Mike.com. We'll be right back. We're going to tell you some more stories, and we're going to talk about the 3-man militia specifics. We'll be right back. Mike Ma's with us, M-A-H. He's a family member of ours. So, Mike, you've got a list that you sent me of 3-man militia's suggested ideas for an effective militia and, I'll use the word, village. And you said 3-man militia is not restricted to, and is it okay if I read this list?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So it's 3-man militia is not restricted to communications, first aid, up to temporary bullet wound, gardening, mechanicking, sniper and scout tactics, computer technology, firearms handling, the 3-man militia meet and greet, the spiritual team, hunting and fishing, water treating and distribution, food preparation and storage, radiation and hazardous chemicals, how to handle them, booby traps, construction, tracking, blade sharpening, close quarter combat tactics, security team, machining, nursing, caring for the sick and injured, car theft, lock picking, leather crafts, combat tactics, fire and explosive knowledge, shotgun team, camp manager team, drones and defeating drones, electronics, carpentry, and others. Now,
that's body work.
in Missouri, it is, And in Missouri, I just researched, one of our instructors sent me a list of felonies. Now, it's a felony to have lock-picking tools.
Mm-hmm.
It's a felony to have lock-picking tools. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I do a lot, well, not a lot of lock picking, but most of the time I don't use tools. There's other ways of doing it. And it doesn't work all the time, but it's nice to know all these things.
Well, absolutely. And here's I'm just going to share this on the class. So we had one of our instructors brought over a camper trailer that needed some, TLC in order for a family to use it as their home. Well, there was a door to access the controls that we needed to use access to check it, and actually we need to fix some parts, but it was locked. And he never had the key for it, never got the key. Well, I looked at that, and I remember, probably from the 1970s, learning how locks work. I was interested. How does that key do its thing? Well, I thought about that, and I decided that I can make a tool. Actually, it's two little tools. I could make a couple tools right there on the spot in order to open that lock. Now, it was his lock. I had permission to do it, and we didn't have a key. Now, you can call a lockpick, and I guess it's illegal for a locksmith to have lockpick tools, but it's a felony if we're in possession of them or caught in possession of them. Well, I just need to make some tools. We're not going to call them lockpick tools. We're going to call them tools to open this lock without damaging the door. So we did. Now, we disposed of these tools. Don't have them. Gone. And it was for our own purposes. It's not like we're breaking into cars and houses. It was for our own equipment and for our own purpose, and we didn't have the key. So why should we call somebody and pay them, I don't know, $200 to show up and open a simple lock? Well, we could do it. What are your thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, that sounds like ingenuity. You're getting things done, taking personal responsibility. All sounds good to me.
Mm-hmm. I got to tell you, the judge would have a real tough time with you, and so would the prosecutor.
Yeah. Now, well, every time I've gone to court, I've always got out of everything. But like I say, you got to remember, I am not a criminal, and that's really what they look for.
Yeah.
The true people of authority, they're looking for criminals. If you don't fit that, they're not interested.
Yeah. All right, what do you want to talk about, Mike, in specifics on this list? You got something in mind? 3 seconds.
It's the relationships. I want to go back to the relationships of it.
Mike Ma's with us. We're talking about the three-man militia. Might not be exactly what you're thinking, class, but this is what you need to consider doing if you want to survive. Mike, please continue.
Yes. When you notice on that list, nobody knows everything, and there's a lot of things we don't even want to learn. And the good thing is when you're working on things that you do enjoy doing, and you're doing it with other people, you're getting a relationship. And once you get the relationship, you're pretty much open to, you can do anything, even when it's things that you don't want to do or don't know anything about, because you've learned how to work with somebody. And you can work with others and get things done without you being right on top of them. I know in my businesses, like I say, they have to understand, the employees have to understand the goals. And it doesn't mean I have to hold them by the hand. I want them to think. I want them to do what they think is right, because I'm going to learn from them, even though I probably know more. But when I'm watching them and I see, I'm going to learn something different. And it just continues on all aspects of life and doing all kinds of stuff, because there's some things I've got the tools for and I don't have the knowledge. There's things I have the knowledge and I don't have the tools. And nowadays I'm getting a little older, and so my eyes aren't quite so well, and so a lot of things I can't see anymore. So, but I can still work with others and get the project done. And once you get this relationship, like I say, there's no limit. You can do all kinds of cool things. But you have to think about the whole aspect of how you're going to survive, and putting it in a three-man militia type thinking. When you go through a bad situation, and if you've already got the relationship, you can just look at each other, and somebody's going to go grab somebody else and go do whatever needs to be done. You don't need to talk so much about it. All that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I was thinking one of the things that you've got here on your list is communication. Well, I decided that was something that I needed to do, but I didn't have the time to do it the way the others did. Now, what the others did, we had a meetup group in Springfield, Missouri, and they decided that a whole bunch of people that were in the meetup group decided they were going to study together for the ham radio license. And they spent a couple weekends together studying, tutoring, training, and it worked. And almost everybody who took the exam got his or her license. For me, it didn't work quite that way because I didn't have the time to race into Springfield and race back. That was 2 extra hours. And I just got the book, read the book, and in one day, I had, enough knowledge to sit for the exam and pass the exam. So there are different ways of doing it, but it certainly was more pleasant for the others where they, met and exchanged thoughts and ideas and talked about who, what, when, where, and why of the licensing exam. So you're right. And it really works well. But it's got to start with somebody. And that's the point. It has to start with somebody. Now, who is that person, Mike? How do you find that person? Or are you that person? Meaning whoever's listening to this broadcast.
Yeah, that's for me, and especially like in my area, like you're out in the middle of the country, out in the middle of nowhere. I'm not quite that secluded, but we've got natural barriers, and we've got a mountain on one side and river on the other side, and bridges on both ends. But we can seclude our whole big area, and making people do things is not that difficult when you're making them do something that they already want to do. And when you're working with people that are scared, like say after something really bad happens, we could have a tornado or whatever happen, and so they're confused. They always lean towards somebody that's going to make the decisions. And that's why police and your emergency response people and all that, they're already used to making decisions. So that's why people listen to them. But in the long run, like I say, we need to divide everything up and motivate people to do what needs to be done. And you're going to have better luck when they're doing things that they want to do. Don't try to make them do things that they don't want to do. And it's not that hard to do because, like I say, people are open. And for me, I'd much rather listen to somebody. But, if nobody's going to say anything, well, I'll jump up and say something. It's not that hard. And even though it's about stuff that I don't know anything about, but like I say, I know people that know something about it. And all I do is say, hey, Vincent, you take care of it. And then, then let them do that kind of stuff. So, but you can't do any of this unless you have a relationship with people. And here in our community, that's what I've been doing whenever I come back here. I get to know more and more people, and they see me, and we talk and stuff like that. That is really all you need. Because at first they always wondered, well, who is this guy? They only see me in spring and the summer. Because like I say, I'm a cowboy, so they only see me for just that time of the year. Because I'm a fair weather cowboy, and then they always wonder, well, where does he go? And so, and now we're able to talk and laugh and have fun, and we share in everything. And like I say, so it's much easier to get along with people once you communicate with them. And when you're doing things that other people like, then it's really much more fun. And we're doing gardening and stuff like that. That's a big thing. And people don't understand it. But in our community, they're not raising something in the way of livestock where they're growing a garden. So everybody pretty much stays busy and gets to know each other, and it really makes a difference. In a disaster situation, we should be able to pull together really quick. I've seen it done all the time. But yeah, it's,
Mike,
and even in foreign language.
I was watching it.
Mm-hmm. Because, like I say, I'll go in, I follow disasters and stuff, and the same thing, with not understanding the language, it doesn't make any difference. We just find out what we can do, and we pitch in, and things get done. I
was watching an episode of Blacklist last night, and there was a situation where an FBI member, a woman, decided to go off on her own to a cabin in Alaska. And she was healing medically from wounds. And so she needed to use her arms and legs and, rebuild, because she was involved in an explosion, which really kind of damaged her body. And so she was in this cabin, and she was determined to tough it out and to heal. And a storm was coming. And the generator was having problems. She was on her own. Knock comes on the door, and several men are there. Men she didn't know before. And so she was in this situation, and it was very tense, because she didn't know if they were helpful or whether they were going to kill her. And that is the kind of situation that we could face coming forward, right? Yes. As things get worse, if we have an EMP, if we have a grid down situation, if we have a pandemic, if we have shortages, supply chain shortages, if the Arabs decide to shut off the fuel again, the oil, crude oil, if we have a nuclear catastrophe, if we have a war, the list goes on and on and on and on. All right, so if any of these things happen, we could have that knock on our door. And it sure would be nice beforehand to know who's friend and who's foe and what to do about it. Because I think that is, although people probably don't think about it, I think that's one of their greatest fears. Knock comes on the door in the middle of the night. Somebody needs help. You don't know if there's one of them, 7 of them, 20 of them. You don't know if they're friend or foe, and you're not prepared. Is that something that you have discussed in any of your meetings with your 3-man militia?
Okay. After a disaster of any type, you don't go out at night. Nighttime is not a good thing. I was in the Marines in Vietnam, and Marines have a fighting hole. It's about chest high, and it holds three Marines. This is where I came up with the idea of the 3-man militia. Now, the next hole is about 20 yards away, and it's got 3 Marines in there. And when it gets dark, you don't know who is who. Now, we've got, passwords, and we got things we got to do and stuff like that, but it really gets complicated, especially when you get scared. And so our thing was you shoot anything that's not in a hole. And on the 3-man militia stuff, I tell people, you're going to take care of your own household through the night. Now, in the daytime, we can do something. But if you go outside, you're opening up all kinds of problems. Anything can happen when you go out in the dark. And helping somebody in the dark, is not a good thing after bad things happen. We do it here. But like I say, the same thing. We're at a team, so we don't go out by ourselves to help people. But we do go out, and we're like you. You're always armed. We're always armed, and so it's a little different. And like I say, we look at each other, and we can make a decision if we're going to go out, or we can tell them wait till morning, and we can take care of you. But you have to think this out. You just don't go out in the dark. And okay, you got to be ready.
Okay, we're going to get into specifics. We're going to get more into specifics as we continue this broadcast with Mike Ma. This is USA Prepares. Please share this with friends and family. Mike Ma's with us. Mike, can a three-man militia be, and it doesn't have to be all men, guys, can a three-man militia be a mother, a father, and a son? And let me give you an example. So this afternoon, the Finelli family is going to be making hay. Our son is going to cut the hay. Mrs. Finelli is going to rake the hay, and I'm going to bale the hay. So it's a concerted effort. Now, do we all know how to do all those functions? Yes. Have we trained in it? Yes. Have we done it over and over and over? Yes. Do we all know how to maintain the equipment, the tractors, change the oil, the routine maintenance, adjust the chains, and so forth of all the equipment? Yes. Do we know the technique? Yes. So can a three-man militia be family members like that?
It's even better than that. The three could be four. And then one can not, because you already know what you're doing. So the fourth one is learning. And then so one of you all can go do something else that'll be beneficial to the group. And then, like I say, that fourth one is learning something new. Mm-hmm. And you do the same thing if you had five. And then all you need is just one of you that knows what's going on to supervise the other two. Now, once you get three, now you got two three-man militias. But yeah, no, it's you can, and you are already a militia. Just like I say, your son, your wife, and you. That's already. But the thing is, it doesn't stop the fourth one for coming and learning and understanding your system. You've got a system going, and it doesn't, like you're talking about the baling hay, but it's not limited to that. It's open to anything, body work. So that's what I'm saying. There's no limits on what you can do with the three. The three can be four, and then that could be five, and then when it's six, now you're already all on the same page when you do like that, because you're
the reason I mentioned the hay is because that's just one example. Now this weekend, it's probably going to be what you said, four. One, and there's another guy that's going to be joining us. I'm certain of that. And then I was thinking about the way it used to be, the way farmers used to be in militias all the time. So, for example, one guy would have a tractor, another guy would have a hay mower, another guy would have a hay baler, and another guy would have a hay wagon. And they would all work together. So when it came time to cut, rake, bale, stack hay, they would all get together, go to one guy's farm, and they'd bang it out. They go to the next guy's farm, and they'd bang it out. They worked cooperatively in this militia. Well, something has happened, and we've gotten away from that, but not the Amish, because if you think about an Amish barn raising, that's not a three-man militia. It's an army. And what happened, right,
no,
when they get together to build a barn.
That's a difference. That's a collective.
Okay.
And like I say, when I was in China, I got a good dose of collective. But yes, no, they're a collective, and as a collective, you're just like ants all working together. And for me, I believe the United States is individuals, strong individuals, and we come together and we do things. Now, what you're talking about is what we do in our community. I say some have welders. We need a welder. We'll go get their welder. Some got trailers, different trailer than what, because you need all kinds of different trailers. Well, nobody's got all the different kinds of trailers. but somebody else got something different than what you have. So we're all either sharing things or getting help. We're not putting up a barn, that type of stuff, but every once in a while we will need help, and then we give them a call, like cattle. Moving the cattle, we'll all pitch in, and it's things like that. But we still do all that stuff here. Just the ones that stay here all the time, the ones who go to town and work, it's a little different.
When we come back after this top of the hour break, Mike, what would you like to talk about? Car theft? Combat tactics? Shotgun team? Defeating drones?
No, car theft sounds really good.
So, class, this may be our last broadcast. We're going to talk about car theft when we come back. Mike Ma, NoStressMike.com. It's a fun broadcast. It's always fun broadcasting with Mike Ma, NoStressMike.com. So, Mike, our son bought an old Chevy Trailblazer, and it had a bad transmission. And he got it for very little money, and he's going to fix it up. And so it had a battery in it, and we towed this thing home and put it in the yard. Mrs. Finelli calls them lawn ornaments. And so we were going to move it to work on it. And so our son closed the door, and we're going to hook it up to a tow strap to tow it from one part of the yard to another so we could work on it on the concrete pad. And he closed the door, and he heard what sounded like the doors locking. And the doors locked automatically. All the doors locked. And so he put the key in the door, and it wouldn't open the door. So he went around to the back hatch. There is no back hatch, key location. So you can't unlock it from the back hatch. You can't unlock it from the passenger door either. So this thing locked itself. Okay? It did. So I called the dealer. I figured they would have, some machine if we could get this thing on a tow dolly or a trailer, bring it to the dealer, and the dealer could press a magic wand, button on a magic wand and unlock the doors. No. So the dealer said, call the cops. Call the cops and, they can unlock it. And I said, so they've got, some kind of a magic button? No, they've got one of those things that they jam in the door and they unlock it mechanically, like a burglar would. Yeah. Uh-huh. So it's legal. It's legal for cops to break into cars. Okay. So we're going to talk about car theft. So I just wanted to share that with you. So the dealer told me to call the cops. I said, no, I'm not calling the cops. The last thing I want to do is have the cops on my property for any reason, let alone helping me get in my car, or our car, or this car.
Well, where I was going with the auto theft is the idea of when bad things happen, there's going to be times when you're going to have to either like a vehicle, get a vehicle. You might have to get inside somebody's home because people might have left their house and they're going someplace else. And so you're breaking and entering and all this stuff. But what I've always said is you never take something without giving something in return. And it's the same thing. When, if it's at all possible, I can talk to you and I need a vehicle, I would rather work a deal with you on your vehicle than to steal it. Or same thing, I need food, I'd rather work a deal with you. But when you're going into somebody's house and they've left it, what I do, now this is what I would do, and I've done it before, and this is my MO. I will leave a note and leave with my name and say what I did. I got some food or, whatever it was that I did, and I'd leave a note with it. And I would leave something in exchange. We talked about gold and silver. This would be one of these times that I would leave something. And the reason is you may get down the road and then something happens. A bridge is out, or mechanical problems, or sickness, or whatever. You may have to return. And now when you return, the people came home, and now you're coming back. So it's not a good thing. But if you've left something and you've left your name and note and all this stuff, it's a whole lot easier to go back. And so just taking something, ransacking somebody's house, no, you don't do that kind of stuff. In the movies, they show all that stuff. In real life, they do a lot of that. But you shouldn't do that. It is somebody's home, and they may be just out for a minute, or like I say, they may have went on down the road. But you don't want to burn the bridges behind you. I've done the same thing when I was on motorcycle traveling. I'm nice to everybody because I might get 100 yards down the road and my motorcycle will break, and then I got to push it back to these people again. So you're always nice to people and open to them. And on your car, that's what they did. You just used a Slim Jim on it when you got into your car. How'd you work that out?
We didn't have a Slim Jim. Well, we didn't have a Slim Jim, and here's what we did. Mm-hmm. So we pried. It took two of us. We pried the top of the door frame above the window outward, away from the rubber seal. Okay, and then we had a fiberglass rod that we use on the farm for lots of things. Like if we're going to pour concrete, we want to put the corners in. We have these small fiberglass rods, probably the diameter of a pencil, to indicate the outline of where we're going to pour concrete. So we have about four of them. And so it was rigid, but yet small, maybe 3.5 feet long. And we put that in through the door frame, the window frame that we pulled outward. We didn't bend it permanently, but we moved it outward enough to get this fiberglass rod in. And we were able to mechanically hit the lock switch, but that didn't work. So then we fabricated what would be considered maybe two twisted coat hanger wires, semi-flexible but semi-rigid steel, and we put a little hook on the end, and we put that in, and we mechanically released the lock that you would release with your finger underneath the door handle inside the vehicle. That's how we got it open. So it wasn't a Slim Jim because we didn't have one, and the Slim Jim is what the cops use to open doors. But we didn't have one, so we did a harder way. But, yeah, we did it mechanically, yes.
Yeah, now, remember in the old days, it was easy because they had that little push button, and you could just use your baling wire and just hook it and pull it up. Yeah.
Right.
But you didn't have that type of a lock. So
right, and the locks really that are like that.
What's that?
Well, those vehicles that do have a similar lock, they used to have like a fluted end, like maybe like a bugle, and it would be easy to grab with your two fingers, your thumb and a finger, and lift that latch or that lock that would pop up and push down. It was easy to do that with a coat hanger, but they've replaced those with anti-theft kinds of locks that are really hard to manipulate, right?
Yes, yeah. Well,
so we had to fabricate a tool. We had to make a tool to do it.
Yeah, and I'm not too keen on breaking out the windows on that stuff, even in, emergency situations, like that, because the same thing, it's somebody's vehicle, and they may have parked it. And if they see you over there, well, I'll put it this way. If I had my car and it's parked there and you think you're going to come out there and break the window and do something with it, you're probably going to pay for it. But if you start up there, then, we can talk. But there won't be no talking if you break my window. So that's what I'm saying. You got to treat people's property like it is yours also.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to get a relationship going than after you've squashed your relationship and then you try to get it back. You know what I mean? You do bad on somebody and try to get it back. It's not going to be a pretty thing. It's going to be tough.
Well, Mike, let me tell you a story. So we had a bunch of expos. We had 7 Get Prepared expos. And there was a guy who was talking about salvaging. And I blew a gasket when I heard about this. I heard about it after the fact. So he was teaching a seminar on salvaging. And here's what he said, and I'm paraphrasing. So things are really bad, and there's cars and trucks abandoned everywhere, and you see one of those Walmart, tractor trailers that's been abandoned on the highway because it's gridlock. It's, abandoned cars up and down the road, and you just go shopping. Go shopping at the Walmart tractor trailer that's been abandoned. And he called that salvaging. Now, to me, that's theft.
Yeah.
And I had, I blew a gasket when I heard that, because I understand people are in need, but you just don't help yourself to stealing other people's things because circumstances force them to abandon them for a while. Now, even if you don't like the Chinese factory outlet, which I call Walmart, because it's mostly goods that are imported, right? Isn't that what Walmart is, Mike?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they have these goods from imported from all over Asia, and so just even if you don't like the fact that we're not making things in the United States anymore and we're importing them, even if you don't like Walmart, even if you had a run-in with Walmart, doesn't mean that you have the license to go steal. Correct?
Correct.
So what would you do in that? What would you do in that circumstance? Would you leave them a note saying that I saw you had a case of water and I only took one, and here's my name, and I hope to be back and compensate you for it on my way back, but I needed it right now because I would have died without it?
Yeah, that I would. Or, like I say, I carry a lot of gold and silver, and so I'd probably leave some silver or something, because it's not how much, it's you're giving something. And I would rather they would be there and let me work or use some of my skills and get it. I don't like losing. You can only give out so much gold and silver, but skills you can do it, and then you don't mind doing it. But like I say, you just don't take it. Like I say, I'm big on morals, and without that, it's going to be tough. So I live by my morals, and I expect it from others.
Mm-hmm. Mike, what's the next topic we're going to talk about during the next segment?
Let's go with the morals and how to use it.
Got it. We'll be right back. So, Mike, we're talking about morals and how to use them. Please share your thoughts with us about that.
Okay. I surround myself with people that I believe have good, strong morals. And the reason is when you're in a difficult situation, it's easy to do the wrong thing. But if you try to stay with doing the morally correct thing, it's a whole lot easier. And when you're surrounding yourself with people that's thinking like that, then they can verify that, okay, do you give these people this food? We're going to be short of food later on. And so what is the proper thing to do? And it depends. Is there children there or, there's lots of different things that could verify, make a difference. So, but what the thing is, you can look at your part of your 3-man militia, and now they won't have a problem if they're involved with giving that last bit of food away. Now, if you just take it upon yourself and just give it away, that might be another story. But if that's the morally proper thing, you can look at them if you've got a true relationship with them, and nobody will blink an eye, and then they know you just want to give it to them, we'll get some more. So that makes a big difference like that. And for me, if you were to stop me, even now I can walk down the sidewalk, first thing I'd look at, is this a moral person? And if they're a moral person, hey, we can go on and talk, we can do our thing. But if it's already, you can see there's something wrong with them, you just avoid them, And what I tell is, if it's somebody you're wanting to rob me, I verify you're trying to take my money. When I was on the road from Guatemala coming up here, a lot of times they stop you, the police or the military. Sometimes they'll want money. So then you say, wait a minute, are you robbing me? So in other words, you're verifying they're immoral. And then a lot of times they will withdraw their comment because they realize they're doing an immoral act. Now, if they really are going to do an immoral act, well, you have a moral responsibility, or at least I did, to pull my tomahawk out, and then the people realize that I'm not going to give them any money. So your morals will really help you get through difficult situations. And when you have strong moral people around you, it's easier to do things, get things accomplished. And like I say, after an emergency situation happens, you're going to make mistakes, but they're going to be able to help you. Your friends that have the morals will verify, yeah, you did right. Because sometimes you're going to have to hurt people. You're not going to have law. You're not going to have police. You're not going to have judges. You're not going to have any of this. So you better fall back on your morals, because the morals is the one thing that, the United States, we're known to be a moral people. And so, but without the morals, then, you're waiting for instruction, and that instruction may not be right. So you have to have strong morals. And it's funny, when I was younger, I would always look at the older people to see what I'm supposed to do. That's the elders, because the elders, they've tested their morals before. And so they know what is the right thing. And younger people, same thing. I will ask them, well, what do you think is the right thing? And then I would see if they're going on the right track to strengthen their morals. Because when I'm out of the country, I don't know the laws. And so I depend on my morals on everything. And like I say, so I break a lot of laws, but I'm not a criminal, and I really don't do anything wrong other than break their laws. And it really makes a difference. Doing the right thing is a good thing.
Mike, when we come back after this break, can we talk about drones, what your thoughts are, and are they coming to help us?
Yeah, sounds good.
Drones. Yeah, and let's talk about our security team. Mike, I got a question from Mark the Spark in Pennsylvania, and he asked if you speak Chinese, and are you planning on teaching Chinese if you speak Chinese?
Okay, no, I just speak English only. That I don't. Some people can pick up foreign languages. I don't. Like I say, I lived in Guatemala for 14 years. They speak Spanish, and I don't live around English-speaking expats or people like that. So it's really difficult for me. But I've got used to not using verbal communications. Remember, a lot of communications is visual. Visual, the way somebody acts, their body language, this type of stuff. Really, I think most of the communications is done like that, especially with strangers. So I don't know, and I'm not, I don't have nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. Mike, drones. I am very concerned about drones. And I mentioned on the air that if I find a drone flying around our farm, buzzing our house, I'm not going to think it's a friendly thing. I'm going to think we're going to be attacked. That's going to be my assumption, because I can't think of anything that a drone would be doing here to help me. Nothing. Do you have thoughts about?
Yeah, I'd say
drones?
you're about right. I've got a whole fleet of these things, and that's because I learned by getting my hands dirty, and so I bought one, and I was learning how to work it, and then I bought another one, and it was easier to work because now I know what to look for. And then I got another one that's got a camera, and so I started working my way up. What I did learn is I don't have all the coordination to make it work. I haven't played video games near enough. But if you want to spend enough money on them, a lot of them are automatic. But you're absolutely correct about what you see. It can't be a good thing. Now, way we have our area set up is I don't want anybody to make contact with others, outside people. We have a meet and greet team that makes the contact. Now, the reason I have the drones is so we can look and we can see large numbers of people coming. Now, you're not going to, small amounts of people you won't. But like I say, the main thing is, for us, it's a defensive item. But a lot of times they can use drones, like I say, to get a lay of or get a look at the layout and, do their reconnaissance. So you're right. There's nothing good about it. But the good thing about learning about them is you learn their limits. If we're talking about the small drones, you learn how far can they go. You can tell, how good they are. And this will tell you, and then when you watch them, you'll be able to find out where they came from. And now, for us, it's a little different. When we get done using it, we'll land it in a place where we know we can see it. And so we're drawing you in. So we'll let you come over. Now we can see you. But it doesn't make any difference because, like I say, we have more to go out. So, no, drones is not a good thing. It's kind of like starting a fire. Marines were known in Vietnam to start fires. And the reason we started fires is we were so overwhelmed, we would start a fire and start burning everything up. And so the good thing about a fire is who starts it. If we start it, it's good. If somebody else starts it, they're burning us out. And that's the same thing with the drone. When it's somebody else's drone, it's probably not going to be a good thing. If it's your drone, you learn how to do it correctly, and you can get more out of it by using it. But yes, I'd be concerned too if somebody was using a drone on me. But,
okay, and how do we defeat them? We got Kyle patiently waiting. Very quickly, how do we defeat drones?
Yes, like I say, you watch where they came from, and you look at that, and then now you have an idea where it comes. I'm talking about the small ones. You're talking about big military ones. That's a whole other world. We don't want to talk about that. But the smaller ones, you just look to see where they came from, and you'll have an idea because it's all around you. But if you came from the north, that really cuts down the view. All you got to do is get in position and watch, and you'll see what's happening. But the drone itself probably won't see you if you're by yourself or a group of three, unless you're moving around.
Okay, Kyle in Montana, welcome. You're on with Mike.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Mike, I feel like I know you almost. I've talked to Vince about you and all of the things and stuff, or not all the things, but a lot of the stuff you've done. It's just amazing. But you've touched on this a couple or three times during this broadcast, and I'd kind of like you, if you would, to go into a little more detail. If you're talking about a really bad situation, or say it's just that, say there's a financial collapse or EMP or something along those lines, and you're having to deal with all kinds of people coming from every direction. How do you, and it's a little self-evident, but I would like more explanation on your thoughts. How do you determine quickly whether or not someone is a friend or foe or could be either?
Okay, good question, and that's the exact reason why I am where I am. And like I say, we've got natural barriers all around us. So everybody is bottlenecked in. And so they have to come over the bridges. That's the only ways you can get to our location. So you're bottlenecked in. Now, what we do on the one side of the bridge that's our area. The other side of the bridge is their area. And we don't have to make a decision real quick. We have a meet and greet team. And that's why I don't let everybody talk to these people, because I'll tell you, it's heart-wrenching. You're talking about refugees. These people are coming through. And you don't know if they got diseases. You don't know if they're bad people. There's a lot of things you don't know. So what you do is you have them on that one side of the creek. And then from there, if it's nighttime, they have to stay there because nobody travels at night. We don't let anybody come through our area at night. In the daytime, we'll let them come on through, but not at night. But they have an area, really it's kind of secluded, where they can take care of their own security. And if they want to work a deal with us, then, like I say, they will talk to us and let the three-man meet and greet and find out what skills they have, if they have needs. It's the same thing. They tell us what kind of needs they need and where they're willing to trade for those needs. But that's the way you do it. You keep them completely separated, and you don't allow everybody to talk to them because it is tough. It really is. And you have to provide them, like we provide them with wood to burn. Though I say there's a river there, and it's open. It's an open area. And they can pretty much take care of their own security and get a good night's rest and all this. And we can make these decisions if they need help and stuff like that. We can make those decisions, but not under pressure. You don't want to do it under pressure. And we're not there to make friends. On the meet and greet thing, they just want to keep everybody moving. But that's why I picked this location. It is a defendable location. Does that answer your question?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it does for you, but what about out here, like where we are, in this country, there's places to have natural barriers, but 95 plus or 98% probably of the area in this country is wide open, so to speak. You got hills, mountains, and stuff like that, but not enough to form a small natural barrier. Very, very rarely can you get to that. My question is kind of like if you're out here and you've got 3 or 4 or 5 families that are banded together, and still somebody could walk up the highway or walk up through the woods or something like that and show up right at your front doorstep. And I agree with you. You should not have the whole group talking to people because, you're going to get too many opinions. And like you said, heart-wrenching things that's going to go on. And with the women in particular are going to be saying, there ain't no way we can let these poor people go, But it's like I'm curious is kind of if you're out in you've got 3, say you do have a meet and greet team of 1 or 2 or 3 people or 4 people, whatever, and you go out to meet people or they show up right at your front door 40 yards from your house saying, hey, we need help. How are you going to, or is there things, is there ideas or scenarios or things you look for immediately that would tell you whether or not they're a good guy or a bad guy?
Okay, if you're talking about now, like there's no big emergencies and stuff like that, and where you're at, I'm thinking there's not all that many people. And that's the first thing I'm wondering is at night. I'll tell you, nighttime really spooks me. And so if it's night, I would rather, we got a place out in the barn. You can stay out there. And in daytime, in the morning, we can get you taken care of if you're going to be helpful. After bad situations gets going, you don't want your people even close to where others are going to be, because you don't want people just showing up. I've talked about when you're on a path in the woods, you don't get a clearing, and that's where you're going to camp. You get off of that path. You might make your fire on that clearing if you're going to use a fire, but you're not going to be close to that path. You're going to be away from it. Is that any better?
Kyle, we're going into a break. Did you want to hold through the break?
No, that's okay. I'll let you guys finish up there, whichever way you're going. Thanks.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
That's USA Preparedness Instructor Kyle Harris in Montana. Mike and I will be right back, and Kyle brings up some very, very good points. There's a knock at the door. What do you do? We'll be right back. Mike Miles with us. Mike, do you think it's possible that you'll have some time to come back with us maybe in a week or so? Maybe next Friday or the Friday after?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So you think next Friday is good?
Yes.
Okay. So class, more of Mike Ma next Friday. Mike, so there's a knock at the door. Now, you and I have trained about a knock comes to the door and what to do. I'm not so sure we should talk about that on the air. In specifics.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, let's kind of in general.
Okay.
And what it is, the first thing, a dog is very good, very good, and a big dog is even better. The dog will notify you. A bigger dog will stand with you. And when you answer a door, you really need to have a gun in your hand. I still feel we live in a civilized society, but that doesn't mean I'm not prepared. And so I'll have the gun. And now, also remember, I was in the convenience store when a gang come in to rob it. And the same thing, the first thing I did is drew my gun. Anytime there's a situation that I don't understand or don't know completely, I get my hand on my handgun and I draw it. I don't pull it out. I just pull it out of the holster. And then I figure out what's going on. And it's the same thing when I answer the door. I'll answer the door with one hand while the other hand is holding the gun ready to respond. What you have to remember is if bad people will come to your door when you're home and when you're not home. So if you act as if you're not home and don't answer the door, that could be even a worse situation. They'll knock on the door, ring the doorbell, and if there's no answer, bam, they've done kicked the door, they're in already. So I like to answer the door. And also that when I'm prepared like that, that shows them, well, this doesn't look like an easy place. And so they're going to look for someplace else if it's a bad person. And if it's a good person, like I say, it's easy enough. I pulled it out of the holster. It's easy enough to slip it right back in, and no big deal. But like I say, now I'm in a civilized society. When it's not so civilized, then you have to remember there are tactics for getting into a house. That's why it's good to have a safe room, or not necessarily, made just for that, but a place that can repel bullets. And now, see, we don't go to the door. There's a man and wife, and I'm living in the house with them. Nobody goes to the door unless all three of us are aware that the door is getting ready to get opened. And like I say, we have weapons where we can get to them. So, and besides, we're carrying them. So there's a lot of things you can do, but you just need to talk with the people in the house to make sure they all understand. and I wouldn't go outside to talk to people. A lot of times they do like that, but I wouldn't. I say, especially in the dark. In the dark, I wouldn't. In the daytime, I would. And you just politely ask them, could you step off the porch? And then they could step back and off the porch. Then you can step out. But that just, if you can see what's around, you know what you're getting into. That's why at night I wouldn't do it, because you don't know what you're getting into. But yeah, there's methods of doing it, and I believe you need to answer the door when somebody's at the door.
Mike, I think one of the most significant points that you made today is about answering the door. And I think that when you said everybody knows that the door is going to be open before the door is open, you didn't say it exactly that way, but I believe that's what you meant. That means that there's overwatch. That means if something happens to the person who is answering the door, something worse is going to happen to the person who was knocking on the door like 1 second later. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely correct.
So, class,
thank you for having me.
Hey, Mike, it's are you kidding? It's always wonderful having you on the air. So, class, think about how you're going to open the door and practice that with your family. Mike, I'll be back next Friday, 9 to 11, right here. Thanks so much.